And welcome to this, our first program in a series, What the Law Says. What the Law Says is a new series which will look at the law and the legal system in Guyana. Basically, the purpose of this program is to provide you, the members of the public, with all or most of the information you need on the laws and the legal system in Guyana. Because we believe that the more informed you are, it's the more well-informed decisions you will be able to make. So the purposes of the program is to provide you with as much information as possible so that you will be able to make well-informed decisions as it relates to the law and the legal system in Guyana. I have with me in the studio our first guest on our first program, and he is none other than the Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Legal Affairs, Mr. Charles Ramson, Senior Counsel. Mr. Ramson, I'd like to welcome you to this, our first program in the series, What the Law Says.
Thank you for having me. I hope I can provide you the comfort that you are seeking.
Well, AG, I am positive that you will be able to provide us with all the information that we need as we look at the topic for this morning, which we'll be talking about the Attorney General Chambers. We'll be talking about the purpose of the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and we'll be talking about the legal system in Guyana. So I'm quite sure that you'll be able to provide us with as much information as we need. For the purpose of this program, I'll call you AG. And
be my guest.
Okay, AG. So we'll get right into the program. What are the functions of the Attorney General?
Well, under the Constitution, and that dictates function, the Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to the state, and more particularly, His Excellency the President. And that involves any matter that is of some importance, which needs clarification and some legal input. It is expected that my advice or the advice of the incumbent Attorney General would be treated seriously. It's not a trivial matter. And so far, my experience is that on the very few occasions that I've had to deal with matters of state importance, that advice has been taken.
Okay.
And there is a general perception that the Attorney General of Guyana is completely out of his constitutional role when matters appear to be criminal in nature.
Okay.
The DPP is the sole person charged with the responsibility for instituting, continuing, and discontinuing criminal prosecutions. But that does not prevent the Attorney General from giving advice, because the DPP is an institution of the state, and the DPP is charged solely with criminal matters.
Okay, but well, that brings me to the next question, which is the functions of the Attorney General Chambers. So are you saying then that there's a distinction between the Attorney General Chambers observing civil matters and criminal matters? Or the criminal matters you're saying are under the jurisdiction of the Director of Public Prosecution Chambers,
Well,
not the Attorney General Chambers.
well, it's not. There's a sort of a gray area. It's not a question of being black or white.
Okay.
There is a certain gray area. Habeas corpus matters are really criminal, concerned with criminal conduct.
Yes.
But the Attorney General Chambers would take the responsibility of representing the state.
Okay.
And that person would be either the Commissioner of Police or the DPP.
Okay, but why is it then in the habeas corpus matters the Attorney General Chambers plays a role in that, although it's a matter of a criminal nature?
Because it affects the constitutional rights of the citizen.
Okay.
So, for an application to be made with respect to the release of a person from custody, it is regarded as a habeas corpus application.
Okay.
But the habeas corpus application is a means of putting a check on the arbitrary arrest and detention of persons.
Okay.
That is why in the Constitution there was the need to extend the time from 24 hours or a reasonable time to 72 hours.
Okay.
So as to give the police in a growing society and a developing society a greater opportunity to do their investigations or their initial investigations
Okay.
to determine whether the person who is the suspect
Okay.
should be released in 24 hours or within a reasonable time.
Okay, so then do I understand you to be saying, for the purpose of this program, I'll call it the regular criminal matters. So could we say that the regular criminal matters such as murder, manslaughter, assault, battery, rape, those will fall under
Narcotics.
the narcotics, those will fall under the DPP, Director of Public Prosecution
Correct.
Chambers?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, well, let's come back to the Attorney General Chambers now. Then you're primarily, your chambers is primarily concerned with civil matters.
Yes, but let me take you back a little. I don't want to say backtrack a little.
That's
because
okay.
that's a terrible term, given the history of it.
That's all right.
As late as the early 60s, the DPP the functions of the DPP came within the office of the Attorney General's Chambers.
Okay.
But because of the need to have less of a political input, the perception that there's a political input,
Okay.
the Attorney General being a politically appointed person. You see, in the years gone by, the Attorney General is not necessarily a political appointee.
Okay.
But since after gaining self-governance and in the 60s,
Okay.
the Attorney General was generally a political appointee,
Okay.
and it seemed to give the impression that his judgment would be colored or affected by his political persuasion or suasion. In that event, there was need to have an amendment to the Constitution to allow for the DPP to be a person who would deal with all criminal matters
Okay.
and exercise those functions to the exclusion of that political appointee.
Okay. Which brings me to, well, we'll come back about the functions per se of the Attorney General Chambers, but this brings me to another question, which is sort of help us to understand the distinction then between the Attorney General Chambers and the Ministry of Legal Affairs, because I guess based on the explanation you've just given in terms of the Attorney General after independence, the position of the Attorney General and the Minister of Legal Affairs, help us to understand what is the distinction, the difference between the Minister of Legal Affairs or the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Attorney General Chambers.
I don't think that there needs to be too much of an emphasis on the nomenclatures with respect to the portfolio that I hold.
Okay.
Because at one stage, you see, in a previous regime,
Okay.
there wasn't a Minister of Legal Affairs, there was a Minister of Justice.
Okay. Okay.
But that it evolved into
Okay.
a Minister of Legal Affairs
Okay.
as time went by.
Okay.
But because justice would include a person holding the position of Attorney General.
Okay.
And the person who is the Minister of Legal Affairs does not necessarily have to be the Attorney General.
Okay.
Under the Constitution again, the Attorney General is a qualified professional. He must be a lawyer of some years' standing. And historically, only persons, at least in Guyana, only persons holding the rank of senior counsel would be appointed to that position.
Okay.
Because there is need to give some kind of credence to the historical position that the Attorney General is classified as the leader of the bar.
Okay. Okay.
Even though there are other members of the bar who might have been longer in practice, the Attorney General is constitutionally the leader of the bar.
Okay. Okay.
A Minister of Legal Affairs or Minister of Justice need not be a lawyer.
Oh.
It's like the Minister of Health. You don't need to be a doctor.
Okay. Okay.
And we've had several examples.
Interesting.
Even though it would be, if the person was a lawyer, that person would be better. He would be better able to understand what his portfolio requires.
Okay. That's excellent, AG, in terms of clarifying that, right? Because it's also an education for me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the...
But let me just explain, but the Attorney General's chamber is separate and apart from the Minister of Legal Affairs.
Okay.
Ministry of Legal Affairs. The Attorney General's chambers would be so classified because it really comprises of several trained professionals. And there is the litigation section, and there is the parliamentary section, the drafting section. Those would come immediately under the purview of the portfolio of the Attorney General. Because all the persons functioning in those areas, litigation and drafting, would necessarily have to be trained lawyers.
Okay. Let's talk then about the legal system in Ghana. What is the legal system in Ghana? When we talk about the legal system,
I understand. Let me say why I am reflecting on it. I don't want to be too pedantic. Our system is somewhat of a hybrid, because we have evolved out of the Roman Dutch system, because historically the Dutch was in charge of the three various counties,
yes,
Essequibo, Demerara, and Bobis. And as time went by, the French came, and then the English. There was a treaty which allowed for the English to take complete control over all three counties.
yes.
So, as late as 1923, I think it was, certain portions of the Dutch jurisprudence was retained, Roman Dutch jurisprudence was retained by the Civil Law of Guyana Act.
Okay.
But thereafter, only English law applied, and the English had something called the common law system, and still has the common law system,
Okay.
which we have adopted,
Okay.
and which is far better, is a greater part of our jurisprudence now.
Okay.
we are gradually moving away from the Roman Dutch system. But the Roman Dutch system primarily affected land transactions.
Okay.
That is why there is something called a transport.
Okay.
And there is the English system, which is the land registry system under the Torrens system. And that, although it affects land the same way it affects, the procedure is different in the acquisition of title. One is called, in the land registry system, it's called a certificate of title, but under the old Roman Dutch position, which was retained by that very act I spoke about. There was the title to land is called a transport.
Yes. Yes.
But they are precisely the same. The efficacy of both is precisely
So the hybrid system
identical.
you're talking about is basically a merging or a combination of the English common law on the one hand and the Roman Dutch law on the other hand.
Correct.
Which primarily in our jurisprudence or in our legal system, the Roman Dutch law focuses mainly on, as it relates to matters, land matters.
And in a way, it also affected divorces,
Okay.
matrimonial matters.
Okay. Okay.
But that is being phased out by the intervention of the legislature, passing several laws.
Okay.
That is why under the old system, the Chief Justice was the paramount guardian of all children.
Oh. Okay.
I don't think that it is commonly known that although you are the biological parents of this child, the Chief Justice is the paramount guardian.
And that was under the common law or the
Roman Dutch system.
Dutch system. Okay, so the common law system, the English common law system, has sort of removed that.
It's about to be removed.
Okay, and what kind of system will emerge?
I gather that there's in train now, or in the melting pot, the establishment of the family court.
Okay.
And we are just about to have the bill considered, the draft bill considered. And hopefully we'll do it rather quickly because part of our manifesto, the government's manifesto, is to have a family court established. And all matters will be heard in that court. And if you have a physical reflection on the Supreme Court compound in Georgetown, at Avenue of the Republic and Charlotte and South Road and King Street, you'll see a very large concrete building being constructed. And that will house the family court.
Yes.
And all matters relating to children, marriages, custody, maintenance, everything will be done by one or two judges housed in that court.
Okay, and that
divorces, everything.
And that will come under the English common law system, like we.
It is under the English common law, but it will be also be affected by whatever the statute, our sovereign right to pass statutes.
Okay.
Through the National Assembly.
Okay.
And with the assent of the President.
Okay.
For that court to be guided by whatever the legislation says.
Well, this brings us to the National Assembly now. Let's talk about the three branches of government and the separation of powers. We have the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary.
Correct.
Let's talk about the...
You nearly sound like a trained lawyer.
I'm trying it, G. So let's talk about the discussion. Let's have a discussion on the legislature. What is meant by the legislature?
Well, the legislature comprises the National Assembly. And that National Assembly is made up of the government, the opposition. And the opposition itself is broken down into the PNCR-IG, the AFC, and I think Gap Roar. So there are 65 members of the National Assembly, if my memory serves me correctly, constitutionally.
You're right, 65 members.
And there are the government side, and everything is based on the electoral results. The electoral results will cause the various parties to have seats in Parliament, and those seats are occupied by the government side and the opposition. They're all named opposition. They're given the name the opposition because that's how it works.
So we call them, once they're in Parliament, we call them the parliamentary opposition parties.
Correct.
And then, so basically the National Assembly or the Parliament, the National Assembly and the Parliament is the same.
Well, there is a slight difference in that the President is not a member of the National Assembly, but he configures as part of the Parliament, because, as you know, he has a right to open the Parliament. Each Parliament, he or she has a right to lay out the government's position, as the Queen does in England. And unless he assents to the bills that are passed, it doesn't become law.
Okay.
So it has a parliamentary umbrella as opposed to a National Assembly umbrella.
Okay. Well, AG, in our next program, I'd like us to talk about why is it, what's the subtle distinction between the Parliament and the National Assembly, if I can call it that. And so we're now out of time on this program. So this is where I'd like to wrap up. Any final words you'd like to say before we close on this program?
You sound like another television host, but he is he's given to a little more of the on the comical side.
Okay.
But I really believe that there is a lot to be said for the current system.
Okay.
Implementation
Okay.
has to do with, as I said in some other press conference, I think recently, commitment, dedication, and a loyalty to the cause. Once you can have those three attributes, they will go a long way. They will go a long way towards the implementation of the system that is current. The system in itself is creaking under a lot of baggage because a lot of persons do not have all three or even two of those elements that I spoke of. And there is, in every system, there are weaknesses and inadequacies. Nothing is perfect. The imperfections arise, whatever imperfections there are, those imperfections have been with us since Noah built the ark. But those imperfections have got to be circumnavigated in a way that only the human mind, the human initiative will be able to. But in order for the initiative to take effect, one has got to make that commitment to making the system work.
Okay. I hear you, and I am in total agreement with you, AG, because the system cannot function efficiently and effectively without that human input, and the human input has to come with dedication and commitment. And so I am in total agreement with you. But AG, I'd like to thank you once again for being on this program, and
I thank you for having me. In fact, I don't think I've enjoyed the largesse of many of the many of the persons and many of the media operatives. This kind of thing should have been done since 96 when I first became the Attorney General. Even after I demitted office and I came back in 1997, it's not that we are camera shy, it's that there are only certain persons who are given the opportunity. I don't know if they take their names out of the hat or they exclude others or what. But I'm prepared to assist in any way, manner or form, once it will lead to the development or the education of the public. Because the human mind is such that the experience that I have gathered, unless I put it in writing, it will go with me to the grave.
In addition to that, I'm happy you said that. While we're just about to wrap up, I'd just like to say this. What is important also in any development process is knowledge transfer. You have to be able to, and as a country, as a developing country, we have to be able to have mechanisms in place and have people who are not only capable, who do not only have the capacity, but who are also capable of transferring that knowledge to other segments of the society and to other individuals, because that's important for the continuity of that information and that knowledge. And even as we look at sustainable development on a whole, it's important to for the furtherance and the advancement of any society. So AG, I am so happy that you have taken the time, because I know that you're extremely busy, to come and talk with members of the public so that they can understand how the law works for them, why in the first place, why the law is there for them, and so that they can also understand, because it's not just about the law being there for them or for us as citizens, but it's also for us to understand our responsibilities. So this program is sort of objective is sort of twofold, where one, we're hoping to provide members with the public with information, and on the other hand, we're hoping that the more informed they are, it's the more well-informed decisions they will be able to make, which eventually can make our society a better and a happier place for all of us.
Well, let me paraphrase or put in a nutshell the last bit of information you just gave out to the public. One, there needs to be an institutional memory, not a human, individual institutional memory. That seems to be the practice. I have to combat that in the AG's chambers and Ministry of Legal Affairs, because we have competent people, but they are individual institutional memories.
Okay.
And that is not good for society.
Okay.
And secondly, without regulations and laws, there will be complete chaos.
Yes.
So every society is guided by whatever laws or regulations are made. What affects you affects me.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And I don't believe that it is the current administration is being given is not being treated in a is not being treated. I don't believe that they are being treated in a way that is fair. Almost perennially you hear that the ministers or people who hold high positions, they have not been playing by the rules. Well, I play by the rules. I remember there's a traffic light. I had a driver who was driving me, and he assumed because he was driving the Attorney General, he didn't have to obey the rules. Well, he got fired the very next day. I saw the red light on 50 feet away from the corner, and he went straight through it. So I asked him what happened, and he couldn't give me an account, but I know that is what he was led to believe, that a minister can drive through the red light.
I
It's
like
not
that,
right.
AG. I like that. I like that.
It couldn't be right. And there are a lot of correspondents and commentators in the local press who have given the administration a bad name unfairly. And I try to play by the rules as best I can.
I like that, AG, but we have to wrap up this part of the program. And once again, I'd like to thank you again for coming on the program. My name is Audriana Thomas, and I'd like to thank you for watching at this, our first program in the series, What the Law Says. If you've joined us late, we've been talking with the Honorable Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General, Mr. Charles Ramson, Senior Counsel. And we've been talking about the functions of the Attorney General Chambers, the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and the legal system in Guyana. On our next program, we will continue on the same topics with the Attorney General. So once again, I'd like to thank you for watching.